Hey guys, we're 10 minutes in, so I guess we'll just go ahead and get started. And again, I appreciate everybody taking time out of your evenings and kind of sitting with Nikki and I. So for those of you who don't already know us, I guess it's best to kind of start off with an introduction, right? So Nikki and I are a husband and wife mortgage lending team. The brains, the beauty, the smarts, Nikki Anna, right?
That's me. Mm-hmm.
Has a little over, this is where she's going to get mad because I'm going to say how long she's been in lending, but she's got a little over 20 years of lending
18.
experience.
18.
She says 18. She's been saying 18 for like the last 5 years, so it's a little more than that.
2006.
And I've been doing it I'm the baby in the group. I've been doing it now for a little over 6 years since I retired out of the military in 2018. So that's us. In addition to our work resume, we're grandparents, parents. We're heavily engaged in our communities that we also work in. So we're very interested in helping out the communities that we work in. Just want to see the place to be a better place, and which kind of leads us into why we're doing this today. We often come across either questions or material when we're searching the internet, looking for stuff that are just outright misinformation. And so we want to be a trusted source that people can kind of look to for information. And we don't necessarily want that to come across with a sales pitch attached to it either, right? So that's the reason we started this series of Facebook's Live, in the hope that we can put out trusted information from somebody from the comfort of your own personal space. You got anything you want to add?
No, you're doing fabulous.
I have some prepared cards for this. So we really hope that Nikki's going to monitor the chat. So we really hope you guys will ask questions and engage and help us stumble through this, right? But we were going to get right after one of the questions that we were asked in preparing for this, which was, what are the costs of getting into a loan or getting into a home loan? And so when we were researching that, we're like, well, how do you answer that, right? Because that can be answered in a number of ways. And so we really thought we'd break that down into the initial costs of getting into a home can either be, at its basics, can be the down payment and your closing costs. And of course you can kind of lean into interest rates a little bit, but Lord knows that's kind of like religion and some other things, right? So we kind of thought we'd save that one for a whole other discussion, right? So today we're going to jump into down payments. And we really want these discussions to be less than 30 minutes, including questions and answers. And if we have time, we'll get into closing costs. And if not, we don't get that today, we'll get that next time, right? And so there's a whole series, if you follow us on Facebook, when we're going to be doing those. Good?
Yeah.
She adds a lot of value, right, at this time. So down payments, right? So down payments, some people believe that you have to have 20% down payment. Not the truth, right, Nick?
Not the truth.
Nope. What is some of the down payment requirements?
So there is 0 down payment, 3.5%, 3%, 5%, 10%,
yeah,
15%, 20%, 30%. But yeah, moral of the story, it's not just your standard 20% down payment that it used to be. There's a lot of options out there.
Yeah, and so when you're talking specifically about a barrier to home, or when we tell this unlocking, a lot of people see that 20% as a barrier, and rightfully so. It's a lot of money, and especially where home prices being what they are today. And so we really want to delve after those lower entry points, right? And so as Nick was mentioning, there's several products. There's multiple products actually. So most notorious probably is your VA lending, which has got a VA lending loan, which has got a 0% interest for your, and those are
0% down payment.
I'm sorry, 0% down payment, which is reserved for your veterans, qualifying veterans, I should say, right? And then there's your USDA loan, which is a 0% down payment option. And Nikki's going to put in the chat here a link to the USDA map where you can check out where certain properties reside and are they USDA eligibility. So she'll put that eligibility in the map link in the chat. And so those are primarily your...
Hi, Chan.
Hello, Chan. How are you? And so Nikki will put that link in there for you with respect to, if you wanted to search out a property that might qualify for USDA, which is, again, for your non-veterans, another wonderful program and offers 0% down payment options. Then you kind of jump into what Nikki and I call our low down payment options, right? Which we thought, since we're with CMG, we would kind of self-stomp one of our own, or self-profess one of our best products, which is our Community One. And since we do business in multiple states, not all of you might not be right here in Oregon where we're at right now, but Community One is available in multiple states. And Community One is actually a lender grant. It's us providing a lender, 2% lender paid down payment assistance program. This is really our attempt to help low and medium income families qualify. So there's only a 1% down payment requirement. This is available in Texas, Tennessee, California, Illinois. I'm probably missing a state or two, but unfortunately it won't probably be available in Oregon. I see a couple of you are here from Oregon today, until probably the second quarter, maybe a little later in 2024, right? So that's a lender paid 1% down payment option. There are a ton of state-specific options. So if you're looking for, in Texas, there's a Texas housing loan. In Oregon, there's the Oregon Community Lending Program. In California, there's the CalHFA program. In Tennessee, there's the Texas Housing Authority. There's a website that Nikki will put in the chat where you can go research options, and you can actually go to, I'm signing her some pass. And then honestly, you can call us and we can give you, CMG is licensed in every state, and although Nikki and I only do business in about 12 of those, you can call us and we would be glad to connect you with a lender in that state who can help you with a local. But almost every state has some sort of down payment assistance program to help their low and medium income families qualify. I've been talking a long time. You got anything you want to add?
You're doing fabulous.
You're
doing great.
Yeah. So they also have the FHA Buyers Choice program. It is sponsored by the FHA, the Federal Housing Authority, and that's another great down payment assistance program. All those, whether it's state or the FHA program, offer a variety of what can be termed either forgivable or repayable. And so it really falls down on whether or not where you fall in your area median income, right? So every county, some states do it by state, most do it by counties, where you live. And then if you fall below 80% of the area median income of where you live, you can qualify for a forgivable. And what that means in layman's language is, if you live in your home for anywhere between, depending on the state and the requirements, if you live in that home for 3 to 5 years, sometimes up to 10 years, 3 to 5
years.
usual, you can, the grant that the state or the federal government gave you will be completely forgiven, right? And if in the case of you're over 80% of the area median income, you will then be given the opportunity to then pay that loan. Essentially, you'll be getting a loan. It's a second loan. And that loan can be paid out over the course of either 10 to 20 years. So it makes that barrier of the down payment very low, right? And so Nikki and I do these quite often, right, to help families. I think we're actively engaged in 3 or 4 of them right now. So
yeah, I have 2 right now. I just got, I'm knee deep in one right now. That's been a little rough, but we are there.
So, and Nikki's laughing because she picked up one that, this is probably where we should probably tell on ourselves a little bit, right? But we picked up a loan that a out-of-state lender so here's the deal about most down payment assistance programs is you typically have to be licensed in the state that that transaction's occurring in to be able to do it. And otherwise, you're going to be trying to do some sort of brokered out option for people. And people will secretly sneak in. This is probably one of the things that upsets us and wants us to do these things. And we picked up a loan 5 days ago. Do you think? Was it?
I think I picked this loan up about 7 days ago, and my close of escrow is in 3 days, and it's a down payment assistance. So it's it'll be a total 10 days with trying to get the FHA loan case number transferred and get an appraisal and get the CD and all those kind of things. Anyways, it's going to be it's a hairy one. So yeah. I picked it up. The lender that they were working with previously was charging them $10,000 unnecessary fees, and so they came to us, and I said, well, I could do that, and we don't charge all those fees, and we were able to put her in one of our Oregon down payment assistance programs, and now she can get in a house with no money down, and all her closing costs are paid for. So and she's in the middle of a Chapter 13 bankruptcy as well. So we were able to work with her trustee and get that handled. So pray for me that we get it closed by the 30th. I just got my closing disclosure issued right now, so I think I'm well on my way, but it's a lot of work.
And one of the things that's so disheartening about this when we picked it up, when we were talking to the customer, is that this lender was preying on the fact that they were in desperation, they were in need, and was essentially telling them that they were the only game in town, and that the lender fees that they were charging, which was what Nikki was talking about, was the $10,000, was just essentially the requirement to get into the game because of their Chapter 13 and all these things, that you couldn't find another place to do it. And luckily for this person, they knew one of our referral partners and put them in contact with us. And so this is just, again, one of these things that we talk about where we're like, man, there's just so much misinformation out there. People don't know what's available, that there are people out there who are trying to do the best they can for people and, help their communities and do a good job. And so, again, this is the reason why we want to put this information out there. So there are, so to kind of just like to footnote that a little bit, hi, Alicia. So there are 100% options, and then there are like low down payment options. So kind of like footnote that again. The 0% options include like your veterans, your USDA, and then there are like the FHA DPA programs, and then there are the low down payment options, which was our community one, our state specific programs. Use a licensed lender in your state. Don't go to brokered options or things like that. And then we also wanted to mention, there are now options today. There are some pretty cool options out there. And for example, we have things like a program called HomeFundIt. So for those of us who are in the business, sourcing your down payment, is typically pretty hard because the federal government wants to make sure that fraud or the cartel isn't helping you buy your house. I mean, this is one of the biggest things that took me. Nikki keeps pounding it in my head, like, these requirements about like making sure the cartel is not trying to sneak in and buy houses, right? It's my joke, but it's so making sure that the sourcing of the things. And so
Kevin's favorite thing is like, why do I need to get that other bank statement? I'm like, just get it. Just shut up and get it.
Yeah. So anyway, the requirement, used to be like, it's always been like your mom, your dad, your grandparents, your aunt and uncle could probably give you a gift, and as long as the wire went in, and it was pretty easy. But how many of us have those close relatives that can give you a significant amount of money to help you with your down payment? Not very many. In my particular case, that number is 0, right? But HomeFundIt is crowdsourcing, right? So crowdsourcing, Shan, watch it. So crowdsourcing is anybody who wants to give you $50, $25, whatever, can pitch into this account. It's held essentially in in our particular case,
it's a third party bank account.
And when you get a $2 match for every dollar up to $2,000 of CMG's money. So
For every donation you
for every
get.
donation.
Mhm.
And again, this has been widely used by college graduates who are wanting to buy a house, instead of, for college gifts, or wedding gifts, instead of getting your third toaster or whatever, have somebody give you,
Mhm.
help you with your down payment.
I had a bride call me today. We did a bridal show and she met me there, and she just reached out. They're getting married in July. So she gets this cool little QR code, puts it on all her invitations. She gets a whole website, all that. She had somebody donate $200 to her already, and she just started it. And so we then matched it with $400. And then she shared it. So anyways, in a matter of like a week of her doing this, she already has $800 racked up in her account for her down payment or closing costs. And that's a sourceable item for us that they, like Kevin's saying, you can crowdsource it. You get it from your wedding guests or your graduation guests or just friends or family. It doesn't even matter. We had a campaign that we were doing once. We were talking about doing it for like fire victims. Like, they recently had a fire and you want to try to put together a down payment for them. It's another option to do it that way. So it's widely used. You don't have to be getting married. You don't have to be doing that. It's just another way that you can crowdsource it. They can crowdsource for as long as they want. One of the questions she asked me is like, if we don't use it for our down payment this year, can we keep it, like buy a house in 5 years? And yes, the money stays in there. They can crowdsource it for as long as they want. There are campaigns of people that started it like maybe high school graduation and they've carried it through. If they end up, so you have to buy the home, you have to use it, you have to buy a home to get our matching gifts. But if for some reason they decide later that they're not going to buy a home, they do get all the funds back from their donors that have donated the money to them. But the idea is obviously to help source a down payment for them. We usually use a Freddie Mac loan with this. There's other sources we can use, but Freddie Mac doesn't make us do the 2-month source and season on it at all. So we get to just use those money straight for their down payment.
Yeah.
Pretty cool program.
There's a bunch of testimonials that you can see from people who have leveraged this into $20,000-$30,000. So really popular with the youngsters. The under 30 crowd. Us older people tend to have a hard time asking others for money, but it's really popular with the younger crowd. So,
well, at the bridal show, we heard a lot of people say, most people live together already, so they didn't really need like dishes and pots and pans and stuff. So instead they wanted to put a QR code and it just said, hey, can you give me money towards my down payment? And most people, would rather send you $100 or $200 towards the down payment. But even like college gifts, I think it's just you just have to, you can use it for anything. Like I said, you don't even have to be in the middle of you can just ask people for money. I don't know, post it out on social media and be like, I'm trying to buy a house, give me money. Maybe people will do it,
Yeah. And yeah, I'm going to say it and it's going to be out in the internet, but if your family's if your parents or somebody's already going to give you $1,000, why not have them give you the $1,000 and then get $2,000 of Nikki's money, right? So
so they put $1,000 in there and then we'll match $2,000. I mean, it's a free $2,000. You have to use us for your loan, but you might as well anyways.
So the next, as we promised, we're going to try to keep these short, but the next thing we kind of want to quickly run into, and this is going to be mostly Nikki kind of going over this, is the next most significant piece of closing on a house is closing costs. So Nikki's going to kind of break that down for people and hopefully that'll help explain some of that.
Yeah, so one of the most common things people are like, oh, I need a down payment, and they think that's it. But there are closing costs that are involved in a loan transaction. So it's always unnerving when a customer calls me and they just think that, they've saved all their money for a down payment and they don't have enough for closing costs. In that case, a lot of times we'll do a down payment assistance program, but closing costs are going to include, there's just 3 buckets. There's the lender fees, which is what we charge, which we don't charge points. It's just a lender fee, appraisal, credit report, and then you have title and escrow fees. It's the same no matter where you go, really. Title and escrow, they're regulated, so it's based on the purchase price loan amount. And then prepaids, which is taxes and insurance. So you can fill your taxes and insurance so we can pay it when they come due. On a transaction around the size of like a $300,000 to $500,000 purchase price, you're probably talking about $6,000 to $8,000 in closing costs.
Unless you're one of our buyers from Texas or something like that.
Yeah,
and then that
in Oregon.
gonna...
Yeah, so Texas a little higher, California a little higher. It just kind of varies. We do a quote for you when the time comes. But again, closing costs, the HomeFundIt can pay your closing costs. Some of our down payment assistance can pay your closing costs. Right now, we're in the type of market in most areas. We're in the market where the seller is willing to contribute towards your closing costs. It's kind of the positive about being in a higher interest rate environment right now. You have a little more flexibility in some areas to be able to do seller paid closing costs. So that's where the seller will give you a credit towards your closing costs that your realtor will negotiate for you. We do see that a lot right now. Mm-hmm. Then the other piece that we just have to throw out there is if you do a loan with CMG, with us at CMG, our company has honored, we call it the rate rebound, where we will do a refinance for you for 5 years. So as many times as the rate is going to lower 0.5% or more, yep. In that 5 years, we're going to do a refinance for you, and we're going to waive our lender fee, appraisal fee, credit report fee, tax service fee, and we're going to give you $1,000 towards your title and escrow fees. So it becomes a pretty inexpensive refinance. And I just throw that out there right now because we are in a super high rate environment. Or we think it's super high rate environment. I think it's super high, but so because we're in a higher rate environment right now, having that opportunity to know that you can refinance your house multiple times and not just one time. Our CEOs talked about that. People will say, Nikki, how are you guys going to do that? Like, you're going to lose money. And it's like, well, we're going to lose money if you leave anyways. And our goal is to keep our customers. So once you become our customer, we hope you're always going to stay our customer. So we might as well do a refinance for you and keep you instead of you going somewhere else. So yeah, that's kind of an important thing right now. A lot of people are advertising the free refinances, and they are out there. I just don't think there's anybody else that's doing it for 5 years. So keep that in mind too. It's
typically one time. Yeah. Ours is as many times as that 0.5% drop happens for 5 years. So yeah. So Nikki's gonna.
What else am I gonna do?
My helpful assistant Vanna is gonna put our contact information in the chat for those of you who don't know how to get a hold of us. And we would love to hear from you if you have any questions or if you have any suggestions for your future stuff. This Unlocking Homes series will go for a period of time until we just feel like we've answered everybody's questions. So we'd love to hear back from you about what you might want to hear about. Does anybody got any questions tonight?
Okay. Hope you can't hear my dog in the background chewing on his phone.
You hear that giant bear back there? All right, guys. Well, thank you so much. We really appreciated your time this evening. Have a wonderful rest of your week and a great weekend. We'll talk to you soon.